I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then I start a war.
Welcome to the very first episode of Landlord Wars. My name is Willie Mandrell. I'm with my partner Lior. I'll let Lior introduce himself in a second, but we are both landlords in the Boston area, and we sometimes we get aggravated and we get caught up with it a little bit as well. You see all the glitz and glam, the Instagram BS. Everybody's showing you how fancy it is to be a landlord, how great it is, and how much money they've made, how much wealth they've built. I get caught up in it as well. We're talking about cash flow and wealth building and all this other shit, but nobody really talks about all the BS that goes on behind the scenes, the shit that we deal with when you're talking about roaches and rats and crackheads and cash for keys and buying tenants out and all the other bullshit that you have to go through to actually get to that cash flow, to actually get to that appreciation number. So that's what this is about, Landlord Wars. This is all about the things that we've gone through, the stories that we've been able to tell, just going in and buying up. We operate in the city of Boston, but I would say in landlord, Lior, I'll let you kind of give your perspective of it as well. We operate in B and C neighborhoods. I don't think there's too many D neighborhoods in Boston, but I would say B and C. And with those B's and C's mostly, you have some trouble sometimes. So on these episodes, we're going to talk about a lot of different bullshit. We've been sued. We've been from tenants, kind of beefing it out during the pandemic to just a little bit of everything, and just kind of give you the real about what happens behind the scenes, not just the glitz and the glam. So Lior, I'll let you kind of introduce yourself and tell a little bit about your perspective as well.
No, that was a great intro. Like Willie said, we definitely operate in a lot of B, definitely pretty heavy on the C side as well. So for us, it's kind of just the cost of doing business where, we know who we're kind of dealing with. It usually comes with its own battles and headaches. We've kind of seen it all, been threatened to our faces, from the very least of it. So we wanted to, I see a lot of posts, like Willie said, on Instagram all the time about like the glamour life of, buying real estate and then, passive income and all that fun shit you see online, but it couldn't be further from the truth. So excited to share some stories and, to kind of give you guys a real glimpse of what it's like.
Yeah. And again, this is a great business. And again, I really wouldn't, change my position in this business for anything in the world, but it is not, just the glitz and glam. So without further ado, I think we want to, and one of the things we're not editing, we're not chopping anything out, we're keeping it, we're just gonna keep it
pretty raw.
It is. We're gonna spitball and just kind of give you what and make it fun. But the only time that you'll hear an edit is if we accidentally use a tenant's name or a particular address. We want to keep that shit out of the show. But we're going to talk about Lior E1. I'm going to keep it that way. This is probably one of the tougher buildings that we bought here in Boston. We have a lot of 3 families. Everything's a triple decker. And this one in particular property, we're going to talk about the first few episodes. This is one building. So E1, E2, E3. So we're going to talk about E1. E1 is probably, I'm going to give Lior, I'll let him get started. The way we typically work is Lior is more or less on the acquisition side of our business. And then I come in after we've acquired the property, do the renovations, get the property leased up and turned over. So I'll let him kind of start it off in the relationship. Lior, tell them a little bit about how we acquired the building, where we bought it, and then that relationship with the initial tenant in that first floor unit.
Yeah, so we bought the building as a rental building. That our business plan was to come in, renovate the building, and either hopefully filter out some tenants or keep the same tenants and bump up their rents. Obviously, a great business plan, but much harder to do on the ground. So when we acquired the building, that 3-family had 3 all existing tenants. It was managed and owned by, we did not know back then, but by a bigger slumlord, if we will. Right. So that building had a lot of deferred maintenance. The tenants were not the best quality. And yet, like Willie said, typically the way we operate is, I'll do the acquisitions, but if we're not ready for renovation from day one, right? If for example, we have tenants, typically I'll, manage that turnover as well until we're ready for that full up construction. So for that unit E1, that was a tough tenant. She was, you know, I had a lot of complaints from day one about her. From the other tenants, they were all saying that they were seeing shady shit, if you will, coming in and out of that door. They were all saying they had like people going in at odd hours of the night, that they seen like potential needles and stuff. So you kind of get the gist of what we were potentially dealing with here. But the issue was we couldn't prove it, right? We couldn't just go up to her face and say, look, we know you're doing X, Y, Z, like, you know, whatever.
How do you say, hey, you're a crackhead, and we know you are?
I'm trying to keep some base professionalism. Yeah, so I couldn't just go there, say that without any sort of evidence, right? That obviously would not go down very well. It would just cause a lot of, you know, head to head kind of deal. So I was kind of at the issue was we were kind of a little bit of a standstill. We knew there was a lot of weird stuff going on, but we couldn't really prove it, which meant we didn't really have an amazing argument if we were going to try and evict the tenant. But one of the things I did notice after this was probably within about, I'd say the first 3 to 6 months, I was trying to figure out a way what we could do to like essentially get this tenant out. And what I noticed, probably if you know what I noticed over and over again was on our back decks, right, on that tenant's back deck, there would always be a little feces, right, and and at first I was like kind of just ignored it. Obviously it was gross. I had someone clean it up and all that stuff, but then it became a habit, and I texted her a couple times and I was like, look, like you can't do that, right? That's gross. Other people
clarify that it was her dog that was shitting on the back.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, so sorry. It was her dog. It was not human.
I would just burn the building down at that point.
Yeah, I believe it was dog. We never tested it, but yeah, but yeah. So we, and after some time, after I texted her a couple of times, I realized that, you know what? I mean, if she's going to keep doing this, I'm going to use it again. That's going to be the thing we're going to use against her, because at the end of the day, it is gross, and it's certainly a health code violation. You cannot leave feces outside like that on your decks. I mean, other tenants walk through those decks all the time. And we were getting complaints about that. I mean, it's, pardon my French, it's effing disgusting, right?
Right.
So that's kind of the route we decided to take, is use that angle on the health side to try and get her out.
Yeah, and then we ended up doing a cash for keys. Is that the deal? What do we end up giving her cash to just move out of the building at some point, or do we just help her find another unit?
Yeah, so the way it ended up playing out was, once we notified her a number of times, we looped in our attorney. We had our attorney submit a 30-day notice to quit to the tenant. And I went to the tenant and said, look, you're going to lose this battle. We can either go pay our attorney right now the full-on fee, and she's going to file an eviction on you for health hazards, and that's going to stay on your record forever, or you get out of here, right? And we essentially gave her the money that we were going to pay the attorney. So I don't remember exactly how much it was. It was maybe $5,000 or something. Yeah. So yeah, basically what we settled was $5,000, plus we paid for her moving trucks. So she was able to find a different apartment. And yeah, we paid for that, paid for her deposits, and eventually, I think probably after 9 to 12 months, got her out.
All right. Yeah. So I don't know what we're going to name this episode, but you talked about a lot of, dog feces on the back deck. But we kind of skipped over the crack part. So I admittedly, I do not live in some of the neighborhoods that we invest in. I used to, I like to have a backyard, have a little bit more space. We invest in a little bit more densely populated neighborhoods. But I have my brother and my cousin keep my ear to the streets and let me know what's going on. And from both of them, I would hear, specifically my cousin, I would hear that every single day it's a hot spot. We bought a building with somebody who clearly had some activity, whether she was dealing or whether she was, being dealt to. There were cars swinging by on a regular basis 3-4 times. Our carpenter said the same thing. If you remember, Phil that was with us said the same thing. Cars dropping by hand-to-hand contact, someone go back in the house. And that front door, Leo, that front door used to aggravate the hell out of me because it was always open. It was
always open.
Degrees outside, and the front door to the building was always open. It was just a revolving door. So, we knew we had to get her out. Like Leora said, it was cash for keys. We paid her to, to move on, put some money in her pocket. But I think the most disgusting thing about that apartment was not when we didn't really know it until she actually moved out and we got in. It was an absolute disaster. I've never had a situation where there were, clearly, just stains from her smoking in the unit, and it wasn't cigarette smoke. It was cat hair everywhere, dog shit everywhere. I've never had to do so much work to get the stench out of a place. I'm talking about we threw on 3 coats of paint. It still stunk. We gutted the bathroom and the kitchen down to the studs. And then the kitchen and the bathroom almost collapsed into the basement because there was so much leaking and everything going on, inside the unit. Gutted the kitchen, gutted the bathroom. It still stunk. We changed out all the blinds, every last thing, a lot of the trim work. Sanded the hardwood floors in the apartment, still stunk. It wasn't until we threw on like the 2nd or 3rd coat of polyurethane and left the windows open for almost a week during the middle of the winter that we actually got the place aired out. So it was a very disgusting unit. And again, just to give you guys some feedback, it wasn't something that we did last week. We were relatively new in our careers in terms of taking these types of things on, buying from other investors. Leo had mentioned we bought from a pretty big developer, a pretty big landlord in Boston. If we ever come across his name again, I'm pretty sure we'll be a little bit more cautious about the properties
we have been over
to us. Yeah,
we have been. We've passed on buildings owned by him.
Exactly, we run into some stuff, and we just take a much closer eye when we take a look at it, but. It was, definitely the Crack Den episode, started off, our career, very, very difficult. We've had some success there though. I mean, we've almost increased the building in the last, few years by 50%. I think we bought it somewhere around 600,000. And, the building's probably closer to 900,000 today. So it was a lot of work, but, have had some heavy returns. So, wanted to end off every episode with, kind of a lesson that we've learned, a takeaway, something that's helped us advance our careers through each one of these, difficult times. And I think for me, and then Leo, I'll let you kind of end it off. For me, it was really and again, it sounds simple and it sounds really stupid and something we should probably be doing anyway, but doing a Google search on the property before you buy it could tell you a lot about, what's going on there, right? I mean, or, just looking up a police report, not for the individuals, but for the property itself, and just kind of learning, we could have been able to tell how much activity was going to that property just by the amount of police activity that was on there before we bought it. So it's kind of a give and take, because I don't know whether that would have still, we're pretty ambitious people, and I don't know whether that would have still deterred us from buying the building. I still think we probably would have bought it at the end of the day. But I'll let you kind of conclude and let the people know what you took away from that E1 experience.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me, I wouldn't necessarily, honestly, at that point, even if I knew all that prior to closing, I would have probably said, let's still close on it anyway. So I think the big thing that it kind of shaped the way we handle these situations today is we're much more quick and stern about negotiating with tenants up front, right? Like, we kind of let that situation play out for maybe 3 to 6 months first, before really coming in with hands-on, with everything, with the attorney, with potential very strong cash for keys offer. We kind of try to, kind of walk the line a little bit first. And today we really don't do that. Today, if we have a situation like that, I mean, it's very quickly, you get a cash to keys offer, or I'm getting my attorney involved, money's going one place or another. So we kind of don't, it's kind of taught us to just not mess around. We get to the point, and kind of deal with it head on.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, that concludes our first episode. We hope you stick with us. We had a couple more. We got some really fun stories coming up. We're sticking with this one building, but I mean, We've been through a lot of shit, and hopefully through that experiences or those experiences, we can help share some or shed some light on how you can go about your business, operate a little bit more efficiently, and watch out for some of the things that are not so glamorous about this business. So until next time.
That's all.
I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then